Well, there were a few hours of chaos. Thankfully, there were a number of citizens, particularly Mr. Arasek, really stood up and organized firefighting brigades, bucket lines and all of that. And surprisingly, um, well, I guess you could say heroic effort from Mr. Blinksy, though I think he may have primarily been concerned with his own shop. But regardless, um, we were able to put the fires out and sort of restore what temporarily passed for order. But by evening, well, uh, I suppose the Baron had time to rally his spirits and put pen to parchment, and he signed a number of additional declarations regarding the behavior of the citizenry, which I'm sure you've been informed of. The curfew is the big one, but also now merely mentioning our Dark Ruler, she says with kind of an eye roll, um, well, it's no longer just punishable by imprisonment in the stocks, but instead he has decided that he will inflict exile upon anyone who sees fit to mention his name within the city walls. And so the last day has been chaotic. Um, as far as I know, only a few people have been put out for the wolves, but they're likely staying in the Vistani encampment just to the south. They're reasonably friendly folk, as long as you don't wrong them.
So, if I get searched though and they find the dummy doll of Strahd on me, am I gonna get exiled for that?
Um, are you asking her that in character, or are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking that in
Okay.
character.
Um, well, as I said, might be careful with the
You
name, at
immediately
least
said his name. You
outside
just
these
were told
walls.
that rule.
Uh, I think most here would be quite friendly to all of you. They saw what you did. But I, well, and she kind of glances. I assume you're like pulling it out and showing it to her. It is pretty identifiably him. I probably wouldn't go around brandishing it.
So probably stash it in the room.
Well, or deep into your bag.
Eh,
Um,
I don't know. I don't know how.
Which,
I don't know how thorough these searches are though.
in the
well,
off chance that we do get searched, you may want to pass a particular item
hmm,
over to someone for safekeeping.
Yes.
a few items, perhaps, actually. And she'd quirk an eyebrow. But Arvir, I assume you're referring to a certain scroll and perhaps a bottle of wine.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I caught on to that immediately.
Yeah. But she would just kind of look questioningly. I don't think she's fully in on this plan, or at least not that you've completed it. She's aware of the kind of general idea.
Yeah. I think there are specifics that were worked out.
She
while we were
definitely does
gone.
know about the poison. That's new. But the forgery, I think she kind of knows about. But last you had was just kind of a rough proof of concept, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
But yeah, well, and she'd kind of lower her voice. If necessary, there are spots where things can be well hidden, but I certainly wouldn't pass them over the bar. We'll wait till after things quiet down, and I can make sure whatever it is disappears for you until you need it.
Yeah. It's also one of the other things I was trying to like get at without being obvious is places to hide the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Um, yes, we can certainly talk about all of that when the time is right. She'd offer you a little smile, and would briefly step away. You know, she's got drinks to refill and whatnot. But while she's dealing with all of the common folk, I think Erwin would uh, head over specifically to you, Ervir, um, and would kind of address this to the group, but at least at first, it was much as I begrudge the whole situation, I do want to thank you for properly delivering my dear family member. But also a little thing for you. And he'd kind of lean in specifically for Ervir. I know a bit about what you did for the boy over at the church, young Milivoy. I think he might be getting some big ideas in his head about this whole curfew and rising up against tyranny, and it's a good lesson for him to be learning from all of you. I don't know why I'm getting so Irish, but
I did wonder where that came from.
I'm trying to be quiet, and it's really hard to do the more growly.
The drunker
Anyway,
he gets, the more
Um,
he sets in.
but you may want to tamp that down a bit. It's not a good time, though. Like I said, it's good to see from him. The guards already broken plenty of fingers, so would hate to add his to the list. I know he respects you.
I had intended to visit the church tomorrow anyway, just to say hello to him and the father and check up on things over there, so I'll absolutely add that to the list. I appreciate you letting me know.
Of course. Like I said, good kid, and yeah, I just think you've got the best chance of reaching him. And yeah, he'd and coming out, he's bringing another round of food and stuff, and he'd tear off a couple more hunks of bread for all of you for scraping up the last of that stew. And just, kind of clap you on the shoulder as he's walking away. Good to have you all back.
Good to be back. Have we had a doozy of a few days? You cut out for whatever you just said.
He's, said, I'm afraid there's more of those coming too.
I'll
Yeah,
also be
kinda
like,
There sure are.
please, sir, would you mind feeding these wolf scraps to the swine that I brought in the back? I know he's very hungry, and I need to fatten him up a little bit.
Well, sure. I think I've got
We'll
some.
fatten up in a day.
Yeah, but it's
Better than
the
nothing.
thought that counts. Uh, sure. I've got a couple extra scraps and whatnot. I'll add it to the slot, and he'll kind of gingerly take whatever bits of wolf meat you're offering him and carry it to the back.
I'm not trying to correct him. I just like playing the straight man to his eccentricism.
Yeah. No, it's funny.
It is.
But yeah, things progress for a while. Like I said, Danica kind of makes the rounds. And after perhaps, an hour or two, people are well into their cups. And you can tell Danica's pouring particularly well tonight. Drinks are kind of free anyway, but the last couple times you've been here, you've seen her kind of meter it out. So people are drinking, but not getting too drunk. It seems almost more like she's happier to have people drunk and kind of dozing on the countertops than she is to keep this rolling for too long.
You gotta hustle people, put them to sleep.
Yes, but also she knows that's more likely to keep spirits up than just letting them stay awake and share the misery, if that makes any sense.
Those things that spirits up like a wine hangover in the morning.
Yeah, well, they're all used to it.
That's true.
And yeah, I think the only other noteworthy thing is that the boys at some point would drag Irina into the kitchen, swearing they've got something to show to her. And after not too long, she comes out with a rather sad-looking little pie. Seemingly they're learning to bake. And the lattice work on top
Cute, though.
is almost
Static.
is almost right, and it definitely overflowed in the oven. But she's got a big old smile on her face, and she's just kind of like, well, they said they made it for me, which I suppose is flattering. It smells better than it looks. She kind of shrugs and she'd share little bits around, but it is tasty. I'm afraid it's not the kind of pie you're looking for, Narlug, but it does seem to be,
You can tell by the smell.
reasonably well made apple pie. But
Damn,
yes,
they got apples here?
they do. Apples are actually extraordinarily hardy, as long as
Huh.
you let the trees grow long enough. And also, they keep for a very long time in a root cellar. So,
Especially one with freezing moment.
that is true. Although, as far as you know, the blue water doesn't have a refrigerated cellar.
I hope not. That's scary.
But yeah,
Just
things
sleep
will
off to your death.
kind of wrap up for the night, and they do one final round. They dim the lanterns and kind of drape blankets around people that had brought them but had not properly laid them out and all of that. And yeah, I assume at some point you would find yourselves scattered around that private room upstairs again.
Yeah,
That's
there
what I
was
was
the
gonna get
bigger one,
to.
right?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see across the bar between maps, but here I can just drag you up there too.
I was gonna say I can see it grayed out. Oh, there we go.
Um,
Why don't you?
and Borden does go lay down to rest, but he is available if you wanted to talk to him at some point. And where are you,
I guess we
Danica?
can get into his room later.
Yeah. I think Davian probably would retire uh for the night at least. He knows
He's
this with
old,
all
right?
he is. He's like in his mid to late 60s probably. Um he looks quite haggard, but you've seen him move with a good bit of pep intermittently. But yes, much grousing from Brahmin Bray as he has been given one of their beds.
Dang. Fucked up.
But yeah, Danica would take up. Oh no, unlock that, damn it. Want to move that room marker out of the way. Advanced. Lock. But yeah, you should kind of lean against the wall, and I think you notice the slight additional stiffness in her posture as she's kind of let the lazy, affable innkeeper persona go. And Rictavio is back to being Von Richten now that you guys are up here. But I think both he and Irina will kind of let you take the lead here. And we can sort of allow for summary if you want, so we don't have to recount for 30 or 40 minutes everything you've done.
I think
But
before we get into a lot, or
go ahead.
we would recount all of that, I suppose. I guess I just wanted to start off with, as far as the new stuff goes, start with the
Mhm.
bone grinder.
Oh, okay. But I was just going to ask, is there anything in specific that you want to call to her attention about what's going on at the winery?
Other than we don't know where the third gem is, we have a guess,
Mhm.
but maybe someone with eyes all over Barovia would be able to verify when we're off doing other shit, so we can get to
Mm.
it and use our time wisely.
Um, hmm. As you're saying that, because I know how Ervir feels about that whole thing, I'm gonna have her insight that.
Well, he's gonna be pretty plain. That's the idea, is to bring up the bone grinder next and be like, so now that our cards are on the table, and I'm going to
Mhm.
ask you this, so you know that I know, and then see what you want to do with that.
Okay. Yeah, I've got my result there to at least give me a baseline. Um, but I think she would at least comment. Um, well, the fact that you recovered two of the three is in and of itself a feat. I would think that would certainly keep the fields producing enough to drown the sorrows of the common folk at the very least. Without the third, though, well, there's no hope of producing the high quality crop that is needed in order to produce the champagne de l'Estompe that Lord Strahd is so fond of. But that's, well, there's still some of it left, at the very least.
Hopefully that won't be an issue in the near future.
She nods.
Kind
I'm
of a
simply
lot banking
thinking
on that, really.
pragmatically in the short term. He does demand fairly regular deliveries of it. I'm certain his wine cellar's full of the stuff, but, well, almost as if he just wants to remind us of our obligations. She shrugs.
I
Isn't
wonder
that
if him or
the
his steward are worse.
was
Sure.
that all the wine that we found all shattered?
There were initially 40 bottles, and I think you recovered like 18 of them.
Okay.
And those, I should say, when it says bottles, it's not like a standard single 1 liter wine bottle. They're like larger, I think more like maybe a 3 liter. You don't really keep something like that in a barrel, but I don't know if you've ever seen like a really big champagne bottle. That's what we're talking about, rather than like the standard wine bottle.
Gotcha.
So presumably, unless he literally just waterfalls out of the bottle constantly every time he cracks one, they ought to last at least a little while. But yes, and she would, to your comment, Ervir, kind of give you a little bit of a, like, she'd pause slightly, and then certainly I can see what my network is capable of determining, but, well, as far as all over Barovia, she shrugs, it's hard to say.
I want to ask her. We've been out and about hunting. It's been very nice. And like Ervir says, we found these 2 stones, but here in Barovia, or excuse me, here in not Barovia. Fuck, it's just I'm missing it right now. Here
The
where we
town,
are,
Valaki,
here where we are right now.
the Blue Water.
Have you seen anything that Lady Wachter or Carl or Nikolai have been up to since
Oh,
the start of
Valaki,
the
yes.
these forced shut-ins? Or how they've been receiving it? How they reacted to it?
Well, that's a bit of a complicated thing, really. You see, knowing what I know, especially after you filled in a few of the blanks with Lady Wachter, I would have expected some sort of rash action from her right away. But, well, and she kind of glances to the side. I haven't seen any drastic action from her or her sons, but the attendance of her dinner parties, which I've long suspected are aligned with her scheming, has increased quite a bit these last 2 nights. Often she would have a few folk over most evenings, and 1 or 2 nights a week there would be several that showed up at odd hours to a particular door that I think leads to the cellar. But these last 2 nights, there have been 10 or even 15 folk arriving just before sunset, and they don't leave until well after dawn, in little groups, as though they wish to avoid being identified as all having been together. I'm not sure what to make of it, but I will say they dress rather oddly, all in near identical cloaks or even robes. Um, the reports are a bit spotty, what can I say? I haven't seen it myself.
You want to weigh in on that one, Rami?
So what I did at the cellar though is that we found someone with a poison vial though, and I found a bottle of the wine that she likes to drink though, and I kind of poisoned the bottle for it to be lethal.
Ervir had intended for you to explain that it's an infernalist cult.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that part. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Danica knows that she reveres the infernal powers after you told her about it, but I don't think the cult came up last time, and I don't think you knew the extent of it, if that makes any sense.
I don't even
Yeah.
think we know that the rest of them are necessarily like into devils or demons or anything. We just know that she has loyal followers.
Exactly.
But now that they're all showing up in robes, it's like, well. But we did know that she had people that she was going to plant in the festival to cause
Yes.
royalty. So there are at least several that are loyal to her cause.
Yes. She had referred to at least a dozen, I believe was the phrasing that she had used.
Right. That
We can
part.
go on that too. I just figured you would like to explain the cult shit.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or yeah, just her cult ties, which is why I want her dead.
And yeah, I think I honestly hadn't even put two and two together. One would think that with as much, well, devilry as we're exposed to around here, no one would be seeking out more. She just kind of grimaces. Yet another issue to be dealt with, hopefully sooner rather than later. But as for that poisoned bottle of wine, I take it that might be one of the few things you'd rather have secreted away? And I ought to be extra careful that we, at least until it's ready to be used, label that somehow. Especially given, well, we are in a tavern.
Yep. Do I have anything to market where it wouldn't be?
Oh, she wasn't saying you have to provide it. Just like, we're gonna need
Oh.
to mark that. Like, she's
Oh.
it has to have like a grease pen
There
or
are
chalk
kids,
or
it needs a
something.
child
Yes.
lock.
Tie a ribbon around it. Some shit.
Yeah. Put
Something
a bow
like
on
that.
it. Put a
Yeah.
bow on it.
Just a small rope
It's
knot,
a gift!
like you do to
Yeah.
a potion vial.
Yes.
Oh, honey, you shouldn't have. No!
But yes, I think she
Okay.
probably would make a point to she would take
Yeah.
like a strip of ribbon or something and tie it over the cork and then cinch it down really well so that it's not one that someone would reach for and just go to open without thinking twice about it. I'll store this personally, and I'll make sure that the boys are well aware of what's in it. They're young, but occasionally they'll nip a drink here and there. It is the family business, after all.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We kind of want to save it for her.
Of course. And was that the extent of what you needed hidden?
No, there's I have forged some documents tying the Virgin Master to the coffin maker.
Ah, excellent. And I think she would take a look at, kind of what you've got there. Well, this is quite impressive. Um, if you hadn't told me this was forged, I never would know. But yes, definitely don't want that being found. I'll take this as well, and anytime you need it, just um, well, I wouldn't shout it across the bar, but let me know, and I'll be able to produce it. There are all manner of, and she just kind of does one of these, shall we say, well-hidden nooks and crannies throughout the blue water. I always go to say the Blue Hour because it's the name of the fucking bar in our Pathfinder game. There are all manner of nooks and crannies throughout the Blue Water that can only be accessed by family. Or, well, I suppose they could be with a crowbar, but you'd have to know where to look. We'll make sure they're stashed well out of sight.
Revere pulls out the little music box that he got from the winery. There's all sorts of useful creatures around.
She'd quirk an eyebrow.
I don't know if she would recognize it or not, but it was worth a shot.
Even or odd?
Even.
Okay. All right. And It's the one that plays only at night, correct?
It's the one that I forget what it is after it's done. You only remember it.
That's
All
what
right,
it
yeah, you
is.
forget the
Yeah.
tune.
You can, yes.
That's funny.
I think as you pull it out, there would be a like an unhideable moment of like recognition on her face before she kind of, gets control over her emotions again. Where did you find that?
Friend gave
Yeah,
it to me
kind of.
after I healed him from his wounds at the winery.
Uh, I don't know if she would understand the double speak there. Curious.
I actually don't think there is doublespeak there, because he does think of the ravens as
Fair.
friendlies.
Um,
Whether she
but
puts
yeah,
together that his friend means the bird or not, I don't know.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think she has enough context to register that you're not just obliquely maybe referring to one of the other Martikovs that live there. Um, and she would just, curious. Uh, oh, I haven't seen it in many, many years, and well, as I'm sure you know by now, I can't remember how the tune goes. But
Right every
yes,
day.
I'm familiar with it from my childhood.
Your
No
child.
matter. Uh-huh. I grew up on the winery. The Monticals have been in these lands for generations now.
Me, a raven stole your music box when you were a little girl.
At that, she would stop. Well, I have no idea what happened to it. It's been more than a decade since I've been home.
That's how I got it. Gave it to me as a gift.
Curious. Well, they are
Is
fond of
it?
shiny things. Well, I would think so. Seems a bit heavy for a raven to be carrying around, but it is reasonably small. And as you know, some of them do get quite large.
Quite large and quite perceptive. They were very keen to warn us where the enemy targets were when we infiltrated the winery the first time. And,
Yes, they
the
are.
strangest thing, there was another warning we received from one of them at the bone grinder, and it didn't seem to speak Sylvan.
That is a curious thing.
I don't
Well,
speak Sylvan, but it seemed to understand Common.
they're quite clever little things. And
Sure, but
easy to
everything knows
train,
Sylvan.
of course. Well, I'm not sure I'm familiar with Sylvan. Uh, I
How about
assume
you?
from context it's a language.
Yeah,
Sylvan, please.
Sylvan is a language of the Fae people. It's a much more chaotic and crazy world than anything Faerun has ever had to offer. It's a whole different realm. But there, all the animals, everyone speaks Sylvan, and with that small connection I have to that realm, I'm able to use that power to communicate with animals. Animals that don't even speak languages. I can just read their body language or little chirps and little noises they make to understand what they're trying to communicate. And at the end of the day, it is Sylvan, but it's just really because I like to talk it. There's really no one else to talk it to, so why not talk it to them, right?
Well, that certainly is whimsical. And you can see there's like a slight tightening of the smile where she's gone from like fully friendly to just kind of mm-hmming along.
And then I've never met a Raven who didn't want to just talk my ear off. They always think they're so smart, and he didn't want to say what. And he just starts rambling about his own experience or whatever.
Corvidae, yeah. Um,
We might be headed back in the direction of the village of Barovia in the very near future. Should we continue to avoid the bone grinder?
uh, she shrugs. I certainly would probably steer clear if I were you. The, well, I believe I've made Erwin and my opinion of the pastries that are peddled from there. uh, shall we say, we don't approve of the effect or the after effect, and I find the likelihood that they are made through some unpleasant means to be quite high.
Sounds like we should pass through the bone grinder while we're on our way back.
You could if you'd like to, and I certainly
Investigate.
won't stop you. All I'll say is that, well, a few years back, there was a group of outsiders who got it in their heads that they might go shake down the old woman, seeing the amount of coin she had pulled in from the villagers. They were less honorable than you, I suppose. Only one of them ever came back, and he was not in much of a state to explain what had happened to him. In fact, if I recall, he wasted away not long after, simply died in his sleep. But when we found him, well, suffice to say, I don't think it was a nice dream that took him.
I mean,
I've
Narlock's
recommended.
mostly been like this since we met him, but ever since he ate that thing, he's worse.
What,
I
was
need
he not
more.
always so tusky?
He's
Bad
deciding if
F-word
that's
joke.
racist.
Narlock just looks at her with his eyebrow raised, kind of like the Rock.
What do you mean, you people?
I do not know. I do not know what you speak of. I just want pie.
Ah. She just legitimately had not followed along. She only met you after you ate the pie. After all, she doesn't know what you were like before. um, but she just kind of shrugs. There's not much that we can do about them, and if you wanted to risk your hide, so be it, but I would encourage, of course, from partly selfish means, that things be put to bed here in Valaki first.
Agreed, completely. We're not leaving this fuse lit before we leave. But is that should we drop the Ravens? Is that something you'd like us to maybe not think about so hard?
I think that's a little bit too obvious for her not to just, like, cross her arms, lean back against the wall, and say, well, why don't you just ask the question? You're clearly picking at something.
We have guesses, and I was really just trying to see if that's something you're like, you know what, we'd really just prefer you not talk about or know for the good of reasons. I mean, it's respectable that, as far as I can tell, you've been protecting Barovia to the best of your ability for as long as you have, and presumably generations and generations. And I don't necessarily want to interrupt that, but I felt like it would be more honest if we let you know that we have inklings.
Ralmir, were you going to cut in there? Sounded like you
Yeah,
were
I
going to
mean,
say
it was
something.
like it's really more about the pies. So, because I just thought of something. So it's like, because I owe Norlog a pie, because I told him that I'd get him one and then snap him out from him being charmed by Strahd. So, but what if we like, can we do like purified food and drink to like not have the crazy dreams?
Ah,
Mm.
Maybe.
maybe.
I'll let you know after Nala can, if he can stop himself from eating the pie for 10 minutes to ritual cast Identify on
Just
the pie.
drooling.
He does
Sounds
need
like we just need to buy
concentration.
more.
I think
Let's have to get two. I could eat one while identifying the other.
as much as I appreciate the detour for my NPC being talked into a corner, I don't want to let that go. But so I'm gonna pivot back to that at least for a moment here. And I think with Orvir kind of rambling and talking around it here,
The
Danica,
idea is that if you tell me
I
to
know.
drop it, I'll drop it.
How do I put this? Well, since you don't seem keen to speak plainly, I will at least be direct about one thing. Vague accusations, especially in a place such as this, where one's history, one's lineage, one's character is so important, seeing as we have so little to depend upon. When we build connections to each other, those really mean something. And among such people, a vague accusation is just as bad as a direct one, if not perhaps worse.
I feel like the word accusation is strong because it reinforces an idea of some sort of ill intent or wrongdoing, and that's not really where I'm coming from. As far as I'm concerned, all the people in this room, and maybe Borden, we don't really know him that well, but he probably wants to rescue his daughter. Or pretty much all the help we've got while we're in Barovia. Like I said, if you would prefer that we drop it, we'll drop it. I don't necessarily know that pursuing it any further than that is productive. It was more just like a little, on the sleeve honesty. That if you thought that we knew more, that it would be beneficial. If you think we know less, it's beneficial. That's also viable. Oh God, are we rolling initiative?
No, I missed. Even or odd.
Oh, I was like, oh god. It's like,
Maybe, which is...
what did you get us into?
I didn't mean to pop that open, but maybe. Even or odd, Ervir.
Even.
Okay. I did just roll odd. I think that given that line there, she would step closer. I can't really, she's not going to stand on the bed, but she will take like a proper step towards you. And again, like a layer of the friendliness is gone. And she is just all business as she locks her eyes onto you and she says plainly, if you're insinuating what I think you're insinuating, you would understand that such a secret is not one that can be easily shared. And it's not even one that can be easily allowed to stew. You see, if such a thing were to get out, it could throw generations of secrecy into utter chaos, and in fact, it would risk those of my family who continue to carry this name going forward. And there is nothing in this world or any other that I would not do to protect my boys.
If his hood is up, he'll take it off and very slowly reach for his symbol of Kalimvor. I swear on my lord that I consider you my allies. And if there's anything you've known of us in the short time we've been here, I think it's very clear. We'll go very far and do nearly anything to keep those innocent and doers of good as safe as possible. At much risk to myself.
Ralmir, make a dexterity check. You can treat it as a save. Okay. Danica is kind of standing next to him, and she's locked eyes on you, Ervir, but blindingly fast. She has your dagger out of its sheath and in her hand, Rolmir. And she's not pointing it at you. She holds it against her open palm. And still looking at you, Ervir. She takes it and she draws it across the skin. And it leaves not even a scratch. That's all I'm willing to say.
You have a normal ass dagger, right, Romir?
I'm pretty sure.
Because it wasn't the rapier that she took; it was the
No,
dagger.
just a
Okay.
regular dagger.
Oh, yeah, I just have a just plain dagger.
That's all I'm willing to say for now. And if
Um,
I see or hear that this has come up outside of these walls, there will be consequences. I hope you understand. My family comes first.
Secrets are certainly safe with me. You've done nothing but prove that you want to help these people, and I hope we can continue to do so together. This was far from intended to be a shakedown.
He nods, flips the dagger over, and hands it back to you, pommel first, Rolmir.
I just grab it. I kind of like take a look at the blade, see if there's any markings or anything.
If anything, the blade is probably not like ruined, but marked from where she dragged it across her palm.
I'll also hand her the music box.
And she would take it and you see her hold it for a second, and she would trigger it so it does play the tune, which you all promptly forget the moment that it stops. With this bit of a sad sigh. And she'll hand it back to you. If it was given as a gift, it was well earned. I know not who or what granted it to you, but either sort that may have gifted it meant it as a form of recognition and payment, and therefore it belongs to you.
You cherish it, as the intention of it was. However, I've not once asked for compensation other than asking Davian to come here, which I kind of told him he didn't have to, but I would really like him to.
She waves a hand dismissively.
So maybe if it was yours as a child, keep it in the family. You have 2 children that would love to keep it as well. New memories to make, etc. After that rough conversation, I'm really having a hard time getting sappy and sentimental.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on edge a little bit.
Trying to decide. Very well. The boys have been removed from their history for long enough. It wouldn't hurt to have a bit to share with them. Thank you. And she will tuck it away in a pocket.
Clap his hands down his size. That was stressful. You guys want to talk about our Valaki plans?
I think there is an audible from Irina that transition.
Honestly, I was excited. I thought she was going to cut her palm and we were going to make a deal, and she was a follower of Malar. I was very excited, but that didn't happen.
Honestly, for once, I'm with Yakobachi. I thought we were going to make like a blood pact.
You never had to flex on someone?
I mean, he
she
did it
would.
just to get into Valaki.
I've done it twice already. I was ready for a third.
Actually, no, I don't think she would say it. I think Rictavio would, or Von Richten would. After that line of questioning, boy, you don't realize why that might be a bad idea?
No. We want to keep everyone safe.
There's like a... again, she looks at him, he looks at her, and he just shrugs, and she just kind of kneads her forehead. Right.
He doesn't know how that shit works.
Shall we discuss your plans for Valaki, then?
So let's say there's...
First thing I was thinking was, Raumir,
Oh,
I think it'd be cool. I want to spend some time tonight with Webward. We're going to be doing some scouting around town within 100 feet of this place, and I'm going to try and get some information on those robes, because it would be real convenient if they had a new member who owned a cat, who happened to go in there and check out what they're doing in there, and we could maybe do a little espionage, check out what's going on in that cellar.
Yeah.
And then with Ervir,
Oh,
Probably
you
don't
two
even need
really...
espionage. You can probably just ask to go. She
Right.
loves Raumir.
right?
She
But
does love
do we
Raumir.
want to know that Raumir knows what's going on down there, or is it going to be different if we're down there ourselves? What are they doing down there? And then Ervir, I was thinking too. They were talking about.
Yeah,
Malfoy.
like I'm already good with her, so
Yeah.
I don't have to be in disguise.
It's
or
a good line of thought. I
Right.
actually just think it's going to be easier to get in there than you realize.
Right. And then with Malavoy, what's easier to
All the-
do?
all
If you don't want to do a hunt, you get someone to do it for you, and maybe he's
Oh,
doing some cellar, sacrificial infernal stuff down there with them, and Lady Walker's got him going on this revolution path, so that she doesn't have to, start the revolution against the Berger Master.
okay.
Hope not.
So this is
I'm
out
thinking.
of character question though.
Sure.
So with if I, because of how I can mimic a dialect though, and how I have like a disguised self though, would it be possible to like try to like assassinate some of these members? Like try to like infiltrate, acting like I'd be like part of them though, and then
Get the inside scoop.
or yeah.
So are you trying to ask if you want to kill one person and take their place, or you want to...
Yeah, so something like that.
Almost certainly something you could do. You'd have to catch them when they're alone, but most of these people
Right.
are commoners, which means they're going to die very quickly, not put up much of a fight, and you can shapeshift into them. You might want to make a point to listen to that person in particular for the 10 minutes or whatever it is that you need to do.
Yeah, because I think it's only for a minute.
Maybe it's a minute. Yeah.
Would Raumir know enough about like ceremony or like chance or anything, or would he need to like listen in so he doesn't immediately blow his cover when they do, Hail Mary or some shit?
So I
Might be able
mean,
to just mouth it like when we all have to sing in church.
Right. Might be a bit of a gamble in that regard, of like, if he was called to lead the prayer or whatever.
well, since I was like with my backstory, since I was like raised
That's
into it.
that's what I was just
You might
about
know
to
some
say.
of it.
Is like I feel like you'd have a pretty good chance of spoofing along, even if you were kind of put to the spot like that, because yes, you have a history of it, and even beyond that, I know that you have some non-cult religious education as well, which means that by those two things combined, you can probably bullshit your way through whatever you need to. There'd be some rolling involved, but
Right.
much lower DCs for you than for any random person. Like if Narlug was trying to infiltrate a demonic cult, it's a very different question than you. You have firsthand experience. It's tied to your backstory, and you continued your religious education beyond that in other factors as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's you'd have a pretty good chance of spoofing your way in.
Yeah, well, because I would want to see if I could like actually see what their ceremonies are doing though. But I don't want
Mhm.
just because like the guards know who I am just because of the whole Strahd attacking. So I wouldn't want to
Mhm.
just like be affiliated with them though without blowing my cover.
I see what you're saying. Because yes, you know that the guards are very aware of you as a public figure, not just because of your connection to Strahd, but you're also the only tiefling for
Yeah,
miles in any direction, as far as you know.
I'm very Redwood Horns.
Yes, you do stick out in a crowd. Um,
Mostly red,
Rep the
partially
you rep the
orange.
culture, dude.
but yeah, I mean,
Throws up
with
a fist.
yeah, resist. But with yeah, I mean, with your ability to disguise yourself magically, for that matter, and also like copy someone's voice, I think if you were careful about it, it's very doable.
And Yakobachi would say, Raumir, as much as I incredibly enjoy the idea of hunting someone down from this culture and murdering them and taking their place, if you get thrown in jail, it greatly interferes with my own personal selfish needs, and I need you. So, what I could do is use some magic, and maybe we could convince him to stay home from the meeting that day, and then go to the meeting in his place for maybe give or take 6
Yeah,
months.
I guess we don't have to murder one of the cultists,
Okay.
so we can.
But it's just a thing. I mean, I will murder a
Yeah.
cultist. Just let me know. But
I want you to know, bro, I will hide a body for you.
I mean, I guess we could. Well, if they're commoners, then their HP should be pretty low, though. Then Narla could probably just put them to sleep.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You would know
classic Gnarly.
just from general experience, like any of these normal people who are not adventurers, like a solid slap to the back of the head from any of you is going to put these people down. Like, out of game knowledge, commoners have 4 hit points and AC 10. You are not
Oh.
going to have a problem taking care of a random person.
You might bump into one in the street and they die.
Yes.
Broke that's
Careful.
level 2 sleep. That entire cellar's going night night.
Yes. Now, that's not to say all, everybody involved is a level 1 commoner, but an average Joe tends to be pretty fucking fragile. Think about it. Regular people die when you stab them.
Right?
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
did you die when you're killed?
Who'd have?
Does anyone else have any feelings
Okay.
about what we're
Well,
gonna do here?
this wasn't like anything like set in stone, though. This was me just trying to
Brainstorming.
spitball
I
ideas.
want to use tonight
Fair
to
enough.
definitely learn some information about if I'm not gonna learn about if I can't see the walkers from here, I'll definitely just watch the streets and see if I can like learn the pattern of the patrols.
Sure.
Maybe for tomorrow
Here?
night's sneakiness.
Can you hear through webword?
I can see and hear,
Okay.
but my body is in like
'Cause
a avatar state where I'm just sitting there and I'm
Yeah, you're
completely
just like
vulnerable.
catatonic.
There's an order of operations that's probably going to be pretty important to how all of this goes down. And so we need to decide if we deal with Vargas first or Wachter. I don't know if we can pull off both at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
But we have a
There-
couple things we could do with Vargas, and if you can't see Vargas or Wachter, maybe you could listen in to see if there are more guards that seem friendly to
Well, it
us
is.
and our
Talking
plight.
about-
And
I'm going to move us
yeah,
back
like
here
the one
just
that
so that you
warned
can
us.
see scale here. Like, within 100 feet is not far. But, like, let's
there's any
see.
patrols that go through that are just, fuck this Vargas. Can't
If
believe
I'm
these guys
not
patrolling at night.
mistaken, Wachter House is down here.
Basically to the street.
We ain't making it out of the
And
blue water.
the Baron is here. Now, I will say, Webward Wevington, very sneaky. Also, a random stray dog, unlikely to be arrested.
That's fair. That's fair. I could do some sneaking myself. undercover sneaking.
And you've certainly seen both dogs and
well,
cats, or rats, or
yeah,
whatever for
I
that
was gonna,
matter.
I was gonna mention rats though because how there was that one. It's not in this town, but
Back in
there was that
Barovia.
one house back in Barovia. How there was
Yeah.
the house with the 50 rats in there, so there would probably just be rats roaming around.
Very much so. Yes. This is a medieval, low culture village. There are plenty of pest animals. Um, the house with the 50 rats.
Exactly.
Rat house.
You're not wrong. Rat house. Rat house almost ate our warlock in the other group. They walked up all full of piss and vinegar and kicked in the door and got downed in the first turn by a
See-
swarm of rats.
With
See, we didn't go in the house too, so
But you did see the rats through the window.
we did. When it comes to like, okay, so if we kind of like, if I'm Akabachi's just
I assume, by the way,
brainstorming
some of this has kind of shifted to. I know you're speaking out of character, but to in-character discussion of the
Yeah,
plan. I
yeah.
may interject
Yeah.
as NPCs with information that way. So
yeah,
keep
no, I
talking,
mean,
but I might cut in as though this is in character. So if there's anything you're trying to say out of character or not
well, I was
Danica, make that clear.
like, I was just seeing like when I asked for stuff out of character, though, I just want to know if it was like mechanically possible kind of stuff.
Absolutely. But I just mean,
Okay.
Akabachi is now talking about like plans and whatnot. And if you're
Pretty
trying to
much,
hide that you can shapeshift or that you can disguise yourself, I can take that back. But if you're just laying your
no.
cards on the table, they might be able to help you with a plan.
yeah.
And then, but pretty much afterwards, if it was like after I asked if it was like actually possible to do this, though everything else was in character. So
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking, in the order of operations, right? If we use the document and get, we do that first. Say you were talking, that you're talking about that order of
Mhm.
operation. If we do that, then like maybe we could win over some favor with like the walkers and like maybe get a little closer, learn about maybe what they have that we could possibly take for ourselves or help the town with, and then it's easier to make a decision, or vice versa. We deal with the walkers first, and then who knows how that plays out? It might be bloody, it might not, and then like
well,
at the end of the day, like what happens? Like I'm trying to think of like how it would work out. You know what I mean? What do you guys think?
what if we deal? We'll deal with Walker second, though.
I agree.
So and then like
So we're kind of like
I end up
following our deal
like
that we made technically, because we did kind of
so
do that.
like and then like I end up killing Lady Walker though. Then I disguise as her though, and all of her followers though. I use that bottle of wine though, and Heaven's Gate them.
I like that plan.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's clever. As a DM, I hate you, but that's very smart as a player.
My first thought was that if we kill Wachter, and I have a feeling Vargas is going to escalate. If not tonight, then immediately, like tomorrow. If we kill Wachter, he's going to use that as an excuse to have us apprehended,
Exactly.
executed, exiled, etc., etc. We should take out Vargas first. What that looks like, what the end result is,
Right.
that's a lot up into question. But we also need to make sure that we don't have Wachter's cultists running amok, killing people, causing a riot. But maybe we can convince or get a beat on some of those guards to see if there's any more that are like, hey, you guys are kind of all right. We don't necessarily agree with all this shit. If we can split the guard in half, they're less likely to go swing on their homies, as long as we can make a show of force and beat the fuck out of Ezek. That they're like, oh, we were afraid to not attack you because of Ezek. You just took his ass out. Now we're afraid to hit you. So you know what? You're right. Vargas is fucked. Goodbye.
I mean,
Alright.
Akabachi
Go
would
ahead.
like that idea.
I would say that it would be quite a hunt to be able to face Ezek and take him to the afterlife. Drive my new spear through where his heart would be if he had one, and take his hand from myself. But you know, if we come outnumbered, then we might not get the guards to turn.
I think as you guys are kind of going through all of this, there would be one or two things that Danica would definitely chime in on. Firstly, being your concern about the Baron kind of accelerating his action here. I do fear that what you're saying about Vargas upping his strategy here is likely to occur. Though it is kept under a drape most of the time, I do understand that a gallows has been erected in the town square. Something that we haven't had in many years.
I fully expect us to be either apprehended or very politely asked to meet with him very soon. And I think it would be quite easy to then spin our escapades in the winery done at the behest of him. And he can run his PR, and that would be great, and that's what he liked last time, but a devil sighting here that they haven't had in so long, well, I'm sure that's got a lot of people spooked, and probably him most of all, because he barely escaped with his life. Although, Strahd really wanted him dead, then he would be. But he may just execute somebody to show everyone that he's doing something, to make it seem like he still has control over the situation.
That's
So
my
he may deem his
concern.
PR better than ours.
Well, I think you're right that you certainly probably could stoke his ego, or stroke his ego, and encourage him to use your recent escapades as a positive bit of public relations. But I don't think the gallows are intended for any of you. You mentioned someone as an example. There is a man that, oh goodness, it would have been 12, 13 days ago now. During the previous celebratory festival, she says, rolling her eyes, the Wolf's Head Jamboree, there was a man who protested rather more bravely than most have in the past. I'm pulling up his name, sorry. 1 second. Please. Oh goodness, what was his name? Udo Lukovic. He was arrested in public during the jamboree for carrying a sign that suggested that, well, we here in Valaki should feed the Baron to the wolves. No one's seen him since, and he wasn't sentenced to the stocks, at least not publicly. But if he hasn't been executed yet, I would think he'd make a perfect, well, example for the Baron to make.
Likely held in the re-education camp for now.
They got camps, so.
Likely. Yeah, it was mentioned to you
Called a
guys.
camp. I don't know if it's actually a camp
It
or
was
more like
mentioned.
a
I got notes
facility.
about it.
Yeah,
It's
it
near
was
the.
mentioned that some people disappear to this location, and when they come back, they are not the same.
Gotcha.
But yes, that would be my guess as to his next play. There's been no public announcement, but once there is, there won't be much time to stop it. So, she kind of thinks, and I think Von Richten would cut in. All I'll say is, if the Baron's going to gather the entire town together for a show, that might be a moment to make your move.
All comes down again to, wait, we need that show of solidarity without it turning into a riot. But If we can get a few of the guardsmen on our side, that might not be a bad idea. We will likely have to deal with Ezek at that time.
There are a couple that I could see being fairly easily persuaded, but, well, both tradition and the conditioning runs deep. I would not certainly open the conversation with, "We plan to depose the Baron," but there are a few who have been verbally not fond of these recent developments, at least when stopping by for drink and food.
If a rumor goes around that evidence was found that it was Vargas that had those vampires brought to Valaki under orders from his best friend Strahd, whom he is desperate to keep in good standing with. Well, I'm sure the guards would come over to our side very, very quickly. And that would be a very opportune time for Lady Walker to present her evidence.
You would
If we
nod.
convince her that we have enough guards on our side, that there'd be too many of them to simply have the guards go at each other. Maybe she'd be willing to keep her cultists on the sidelines. For at least that day. But no one's gonna want to see a man be executed necessarily. No one knows, or excuse me. Everyone knows that it's an absolute farce that they're being dragged into stocks and executed for simply speaking.
They were put in the
I think
stocks
most
for
of the
being
people would be on
sad.
our side.
Yeah, they were put in
Exactly.
the stocks for being sad. Um,
Only the truly beaten down would have anything to say about that, out of pure fear that they would be next. But if we can bring a significant enough show of force that they can speak up, and there's enough people to fight on their side.
there is one other thing, Irina would speak up from the corner. While I wasn't there to see it myself, you did explain that the Baron got away entirely unscathed, while several members of his guard gave their lives defending the townsfolk from Strahd. That does lend credence to this whole conspiracy angle, does it not? That he walked away from being
Ezek
directly in
didn't even
front of the
take a
devil?
single swing.
And I think that would earn an approving nod from von Richten. The girl has the right of it. I think that's certainly something we should draw upon when it's time to speak to the rabble about all of this. Then yeah.
Start spreading that rumor. When the time is right, Robinger's forged document will appear in Lady Walker's hands. And voila, execution day is the day we make our move on Vargas. Hopefully we can talk to enough people in the meantime.
Well, I'll see if I can get a list of names of guards that might be sympathetic to your cause, especially once they're given a bit of a nudge with some evidence like this. And she would kind of think, that's probably the best place to start. Good heavens, when you came to me with this plan initially, I thought it sounded entirely foolhardy, but it does almost seem like this might work.
Well, I'll be happy to examine the area, see what I can hear, see what the guards are chattering about throughout their patrols, and Akabati will if it seems like everyone's kind of done making their point, unless anyone has anything else they want to talk about specifically. 'Cause I'm gonna
The
go
only
patrol.
thing I would
Eventually, whenever
add,
we're done, I am gonna go patrol like with as a cat or something. I mean, a giant spider's probably a little too obvious, you know. I mean, I'll be like
I
a
mean, if
cat.
you're
Yeah,
I mean, if you're a cat, you can hop around and stuff too.
Yeah. So, cat sounds fine.
the only thing I would add is that it's still worth keeping tabs on Wachter, so we can have sort of a not really a leash. We need to make sure she doesn't go rogue.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
she needs to be dealt with pretty quickly thereafter. And then the town probably isn't gonna like that. But then we can expose her actual crimes very easily.
As far as the town's
Well,
concerned,
maybe not so easily, but we can tell them and they'll probably believe us.
as
Well,
far as the
who-
town's concerned, as what's gonna happen is Lady Walker, however she goes, her body's gonna be replaced with Ralmir's. He's gonna be pretending to be her. So we'll just say she died in the ceremony of drinking the Kool-Aid. And they're like, oh, they must all
That
kill
is-
themselves.
So, yeah,
Certainly
bad
an
not to take.
option. I
Like,
think that it's
oops.
probably worth noting too that like you have your suspicions as to what might be going on with Lady Wachter, and therefore you're aware there may be potentially even literal skeletons in her closet. Once you get a chance to search her residence and Vargas's residence, you're probably able to safely assume there'll be something you can pin on both of them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess we haven't really had free reign of either location.
No.
Maybe some
And even
clandestine cats can make work of that.
right, even in a very brief glance into the Burgomaster's mansion, you saw a couple things that were pretty shady.
His wife being very off.
Yes. Let's see if I can find this fucking link.
But we
It's talking
do
about-
also maybe need to be careful about Vargas's family too, that they just don't all get swept up in a riot and killed. They're obviously complicit to some extent, at least the wife. The son is probably batshit insane. We need to investigate that a little bit further.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I believe he had either another son or a daughter. I thought he had at least 2 kids.
The Baron?
Yes.
Yes. So they're all sons, but the only one that you've really seen a name for is Victor, who's the one
Yes.
that
The madman.
is yes.
Victor's probably an asshole, but the younger kids are probably innocent, so we should, or at least innocent enough as kids can be, so we probably shouldn't let them die. If we can help it.
I can
We
do
really
pretty good
should try to help
reconnaissance. I can do some pretty good reconnaissance as a tiny little spider. I don't have to even go inside. I just peek through the windows and stuff. Figure out what's going on with those windows. Like they said, they're all like. Oh, that was actually the coffin place that have them all iced up. But regardless, I could spend 3 hours each night doing some reconnaissance. So
That's true. Also, you talking about cats can just jump around, put this GIF in my head. You might have to actually click the post link rather than the preview. Ayakobachi scouting the town.
right.
In that same vein of Vargas's kids, that is also an angle for you to keep in mind with the walkers.
I think it's one of the comments, paranormal captivity. That's 100% what I see there.
And this might be more of a roll me decision because Urfi really doesn't have a lot to go on here. But the Wachter lads are an angle to either work or maybe find out that maybe they're not really too keen on what Mama's doing, or maybe they're
Yeah.
all in. And it's hard to make that call as a third party without knowing a whole lot more, condemning them to death or not. I would lean they're old enough to fucking know better. And the fact that they just haven't done anything is like, well, that's great that you're afraid and all, but like, how many people did you fuckers kill?
You talk about the Wachter boys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I would
yeah.
assume to be the case, but I don't know that for sure, so I don't want to consign them to death.
Well,
So, as a reminder, and I think Irina would pipe up to this effect. They've always been. She kind of thinks for a moment. Shall we say skirt chasers? But I don't think I've ever known either of them to be particularly cruel, at least by their own hands. Sure, they're sons of nobles and throw their weight around, but honestly, despite pulling an old prank here or there, She kind of shrugs. Mostly, I think they're just trying to keep themselves entertained.
You did just describe nearly every young, noble lad that's ever existed.
She shrugs.
But we don't know what goes on behind those closed doors, so it's hard to know for sure.
That is true, and all I can offer is, a
And also,
historical connection, but
Keep an open mind.
mhm.
I'm kind of just
That
going
will
by
probably
that.
be up to you guys to figure out.
I mean, they were cool about me cheating them at a card game.
Yeah, if anything, they were just impressed that you pulled one over pretty well, you know?
You could chat them up a little bit. Maybe ask them, without being too forward, how they feel about the whole, your mom is like your boss type of situation.
It's like, how do you feel about your mom being a cult leader?
Microphone.
Maybe don't
Uh,
go that far.
Well, tomorrow morning. I mean, it sounds like we could definitely probably cover a lot of ground if we. I don't know if we should split up, but I mean, I know I want to stop at Blinksy's. I know
Probably.
Narlock wants to stop at Blinksy's. He's got.
Yep.
I got a special order. Also want to see my friend.
I'm definitely visiting the church.
So one of the things I suppose that that came with like my one of the things that I just started with my backstory though was like a holy symbol though. So I don't know if I just had that kind of like showing though if if they looked at it, if they had like any sort of notice if the Walker kids have any sort of reaction to it.
You bring out the bling.
You'd have to tell us if you have a symbol showing. I don't think you've mentioned.
No, I never mentioned it. It was just one of those
Yeah,
things.
I wasn't sure. You're talking about holy symbol. I kind of figured it's something you wear but may not like. Like Irvir wears it around his neck,
Yeah.
Yeah.
out on top of his robes. But I kind of assumed you had it tucked in.
Yeah. I was always like kind of more or less had it hidden. So if I had it out though, and if they go to talk to them though, and kind of see if they you just to the point where they will notice it.
Mhm.
See
That's
if
an
they get
interesting idea, for sure.
if they get a reaction out of it, then I'll just do like an insight check or something.
Yeah. Not a bad idea.
So I would kind of just go up to
Again,
them.
the question is whether or not they recognize the symbol. But I think they would
Yeah,
recognize that it is a holy symbol, if that makes any sense.
yeah. I because I would probably it would just be like just the Raven Queen symbol that I would
Mhm.
use it for though, just because that would be the religion I'd be following. So
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. You'd have to try it when you can get in front of them, obviously.
right.
But yeah, not a bad thought.
Or I could have it pop out when I'm leaning down to grab my cards.
Oops.
Oops.
What's that there?
Oh no, God. But
uh,
my massive condom for my magnum,
Magnum
dong.
dong. That's really funny. But yeah, so I think Danica's order of operations here. She needs to figure out which guards are potentially able to be swung to your side. She needs to determine anything else she can find out about these. Now that you call them cultists, she'll just say cultists. Then also is trying to get an idea of what Vargas might be planning. She'll do her best to scout all of that.
Also,
She's
any
still
additional
not
Ezek
fully willing to
weaknesses?
explain, and any Ezek weaknesses. Okay.
Yeah, and we have some inkling to a weakness.
You know of
we
at
don't know
least
why or anything about it.
right. You know of at least one weird obsession that Ezek has.
Yeah, that we could use to our advantage.
Hmm.
Which actually, that may be the biggest trump card we could pull out of fucking nowhere if he doesn't even know that she's here yet. It's like we've been done a pretty good job of keeping her away from Ezek so far.
That's true.
That would go fucking crazy, actually. We could have Jerry Springer right there.
Jerry. Gerald, perhaps, in a more medieval setting.
Geraldo Rivera.
Yes. Okay. So I think it makes sense for her. And again, she'll be clear to state, like, I can't make any promises, but I will do my best to gather that information. And I will also make a point to alert you if I do hear anything moving quickly, especially regards to the gallows and all of that stuff. Oh, just a tail sticking into frame. Kitty.
Yeah, he's just cold or sleepy, so he wants to be on my lap now.
Fair enough. Okay. I think things would kind of wind down for the evening. And again, she's all business. I think softens slightly as the conversation goes on, but still kind of, rather than being overly bubbly or anything, she would just wish you all a good night, and would see herself out of the room at some point. And Von Richten will retire to his own room. Irina will start laying out a bedroll, just in a corner here, given that you have been sleeping at the church. She'll just crash here for the evening. And yeah, you wanted to scout tonight, Ayakobachi?
Yeah, I'll scout around and just get a ear for what the guards are talking about, and keep
Sure.
it within close proximity of the blue water.
Okay, so you're not going to go shapeshift and roam around. You're going to use Webward,
No, I might as well
or
shapeshift and go around so I can go and do 200 feet, 250 feet. I don't want to be completely confined to where I am. So we'll just
sure.
keep it simple, keep it within cat chilling. I'm not gonna go all throughout town.
Okay, but you'd stay kind of close, but still kind of listening.
Maybe
All
catch
right.
2 or 3 different patrols. Maybe get a timing on how long they walk around, do they stop, where do
Mhm.
they stop. If they do stop there, maybe I can listen to them, stuff like that.
All right.
While
Give
he's doing
me
that, Nurse Lug, can you assist me?
Nurse Lug.
What do we need to identify?
Well, while he's
No, so
out
we
doing
flip it
that
through his
stuff,
book.
we'll do the board and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
So I assume it's about bedtime, so long rest after that, unless it's
that is
interrupted.
true. Okay, let's handle Ayakobachi first. Why
Yep,
don't you
no
give
problem.
me 3 active perception checks?
Okay, got it. 3 active perception checks. Roll 1. Oh, ignore that plus, or whatever that is, guidance.
Yeah. Still a heck of a roll.
3.
Okay. So I think over the course of, you get an hour,
3 hours.
or 3 hours. Okay. Let's see. So you can kind of get a feel for the spacing of these patrols as well as their makeup. Previously it was like a pair of guards kind of, spread out on previous nights when you were here. Now they're moving in trios. At all times, 2 of them carrying torches, and one of them with a pike, like, at the ready. The other 2 are also armed with pikes, but are, like, more using them kind of like a walking stick as they patrol with a torch in the other hand. They, after the initial, like, hour around sundown, they stop ringing the bells, which are just to kind of warn people indoors. And mostly they keep relatively quiet. However, you do catch them talking amongst themselves about a few things. You catch them mentioning that the Baron has been alternating, like, raging mad and kind of rocking back and forth, not hugging himself, but like clearly fidgeting and overly anxious, and seems to be like on the verge of some sort of mental episode. And the general vibe from them seems to be that they're worried that he's not going to be able to keep it together to keep the town together. You also overhear that Ezek has been, maybe as a result of the Baron kind of losing his shit, has been really taking it out on the townsfolk. Just like the guards have been, he'll stop people and shake them down. But he's been beating people whether or not he finds anything.
Bastard.
You also would hear that the stocks are currently full. So all 6 of them have been filled, and that instead they've started staking people, not like through the person, but like with basically a rope around the neck and then tied to
Prisoner
the
pole.
hands. Yes, like a prisoner pole, out like in a row because there's just too many people for the stocks. And that a few of them, rather than talking about like, oh, that's inhumane, it's more like, well, it's less secure. Are we worried they're going to run off? And then another one of them goes, there's no way they'd run off. Where are they going to go? We'd just go collect them again. So I think that's the key of like what you overhear with that high perception roll, which again is actually a fair bit of information. You don't hear any mention of the gallows. You don't hear any mention of specific plans that the Baron might have. But again, he sounds like he's kind of coming unraveled, and that's probably not great. The guards are spaced out every 3 minutes now, not every 10.
Yeah, got it.
So I think that's kind of the bulk of it. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Narlug is going to scrub in to assist Ervir, it sounded like.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Follow.
All right. Borden is sleeping.
Yeah, we'd probably knock on the door rather than just barge in. I don't know if
Yeah.
he'd wake or if he's in narcolepsy sleep.
He does appear to be in narcolepsy sleep. And in fact, if you knock, like you'd hear a light snoring. And I think you had mentioned that you wanted to help him, and he had kind of given prior consent to that. So it's up to you whether or not you just want to go in. But Danica did previously give you a key to this room.
Yeah, I think we will. It's just very pertinent for my spell slots that if it can be cured now, do it now.
Fair enough.
Although it will look really weird when he's ritual casting Identify and I'm ritual casting Detect Magic and he wakes up in the middle of that shit.
Right? 2 different demonic rituals.
But I'll
yeah.
keep my hood down.
Okay.
So it'll appear less scary if he wakes up.
Fair
I don't
enough.
know.
yeah.
Hood down or up would make Nar look scarier. I assume he's missing tusks, and he's probably like speaking to some.
Oh, he's from
orcish.
Faerun. He knows orcs.
Yeah, he's from Faerun. Orcs are not a surprise to him. Although him being from
Most
Faerun,
orcs
maybe
are not
orcs
friendly.
are not friendly. Yeah.
He's probably more scared of work than most people.
You are half orc, right? Or are you a full orc?
I'm playing as a full orc, but technically class-wise, I'm a half orc.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think there is a full.
There is a full orc, but they're different. Yes.
I got you.
But yeah, no. If you want to be a full-blooded orc, that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I'm playing it.
Works for me. But yeah, fair enough. So you guys would open the door, let yourselves in, and presumably close the door and lock behind you. There is an oil lantern in here, tuned very low. Kind of think like nightlight, casting fairly deep shadows throughout the room. And at first, it takes a moment for your eyes to adjust from the slightly better lit common room. And as they do, you notice that, in fact, you probably are not the scariest thing in the room. The shadow cast from Borden onto the wall, it almost looks alive. He's laying in the bed, but his
Please, no.
shadow is sitting up. And as you come to like focus on it and your eyes are fully adjusted, you notice that it's looking at you.
Do I have to roll initiative? Do I know what this is?
I don't think so.
Okay. Thank fucking God. I really didn't want it to be what I think it is.
No. But if there was any question that there's something magically wrong with this man, I don't think it's a question anymore. The specifics of what, though, that would be for the magic to find out. But as you kind of move to start laying out your ritual supplies, you notice that the shadow reaches down off the wall and, like liquid, across the top of the bedspread and reaches towards his throat as it watches you prepare whatever magic you're working with. Narla, go ahead and spend that identify, correct?
Yeah. Ritual casting that bad boy.
Okay. So you go first. Lay out your magic circle. You sit, you meditate, you say the correct words, and you reach out and you touch him and focus for the last bit of the cast. And as you do, you realize there are multiple effects that are still persistent on this man. There are, as far as you can tell, 3 separate curses.
Damn, boy, got in some trouble.
One of them is fading and may in fact not even be worth dealing with. That is the lingering effect of being bitten. And you can I think almost smell like a strong aura of necromantic magic that comes from that. But like I said, you can tell that that's losing its grip. There is another effect on him. This one feels to you like enchantment. And this is some mid-level spell, 3, 4, give or take. And that has afflicted him with this persistent state of exhaustion that he feels. That's probably what's making him fall asleep repeatedly. But the shadow you feel is attached to a much more powerful conjuration effect that you feel. And it's brushing up on where you're comfortable identifying this level of spell, because you are still relatively early on your wizardly journey. 6th or 7th level magic.
Damn. Who did this guy run into?
But putting your head together with Ervir, you think that middle one at the very least you can definitely deal with, and the weak one you could as well, but it's on its way out. Another day or 2 perhaps. Some proper bed rest and wolf stew will take care of that in time.
Yeah.
What's the
I mean, I also got
shadow
removed
do?
first too.
Well, he identified.
I think it's out of his grasp to really know for sure, but identifying that it's conjuration, it's obviously a creature bound to him, and you can tell that it wanted to harm him as a threat to you against
That's
doing anything to affect it.
to
Something
affect
lying
it.
in wait, perhaps.
Maybe it's somebody signed a pact with and it helps him somehow. You know.
Not a bad idea.
I think keeping him from being tired and maybe earn his trust a little bit more. He'll just tell us what it is.
That's true. You could ask him about it, now that you know it's there. It doesn't seem to show itself in the full light, though. You've never seen an indication of it behaving like this before.
Is it
This is like the first time
actually in a
Narlock's speaking
direction?
like in full words and shit.
What, Mike? Is it actually in a direction?
Is it actually like in a direction for a shadow to be cast? My
Initially,
thought process
yes.
being if there was full light, like if there was just truly nowhere to even cast a shadow, if it was fully engulfed in light, what do I think would happen?
Ooh. Interesting question. Go ahead and roll me a knowledge skill of your choice, I think. You can lean on religion, because this is related to
It's a dumb stat.
unholy
I'm so sorry.
things. Or if you think like maybe medicine, because you're talking about physical properties here.
My medicine is much higher than my religion, but I am proficient in both.
I'd say medicine's fine.
All right, we'll go with that then. I'm not going to cast a guidance.
Okay. I was just about to ask. Ooh, good roll. Well, I think your line of thinking, if I'm understanding correctly, would be to catch this thing when there was no shadow to cast, potentially prevent it from being able to make itself solid, make itself known. But with that good medicine roll, I think you're reminded there's always shadows inside of you. It's always dark in there.
How horrifying. Can you cast light on a corpse?
Absolutely. A corpse is an object. We've established this.
I don't need to go Dr. Mengele here.
um,
There were ideas and grand designs.
Although, to that
Yeah,
point,
daylight will probably piss it off.
almost certainly, you do recognize, since you're going along that line of thinking, most curses do dissipate when you die.
How much does Greater Restoration cost to cast?
Greater Res is expensive, but there may be a way to either find the components, or find a scroll, or find somebody who's capable of doing so.
I'm just wondering if, like, Revivify is the
cheaper
one cheap trick.
I know this sounds crazy.
Insurance
Dr.
companies
Sam.
don't want you to know this one trick.
Like, do we just
If
wait till
you
he's
die,
asleep and
they
then kill
can't
him so he
charge
doesn't
you.
even know?
I can't remember the actual structure of the joke, but we're towing into this. It's an old D&D Green text post, but in the tavern, and someone starts to choke, and everyone's calling for a healer, for a doctor, and someone in a black cloak comes over and just stands there and waits. And they're like, "Well, you said you could help." Well, yes, but not quite yet. Them being a necromancer, not a cleric. Yeah, I mean, you could kill him and then bring him back. That seems like that might be the nuclear option.
That seems very rude. And also wasted diamonds right now when,
Yes.
it's probably not a good affliction, but we also don't know what harm it's doing right now. Because as far as
Right.
we know, the things that we've visibly seen hampering him are the bite and the narcolepsy.
Mhm.
So
Nope.
I'd
Briefly lost
probably
Mike. Okay.
say out loud
Mhm.
to the shade.
Mhm.
You can stay for now. But he can't be falling asleep on the job all the time. And see how it reacts.
Interesting. I think... And you're pointedly, like, looking at it and addressing it directly?
Yes. I don't know how intelligent it is. I mean, if it incites me, it'll know that I'm telling the truth. My intention is to cure that middle curse and leave it be for now.
I think after a moment, and as you speak to it, it kind of cocks its head on the wall. It would withdraw, again, slowly slipping back over the surface of the blanket and off of him, back onto the wall. And it would, at first, just stay sitting there with its head kind of cocked at you. And then, almost like a liquid just collapsing out of this shape and splashing briefly before settling, it resumes being the shape of his proper shadow cast by this light across the room. Still up against the wall, but no longer taking a threatening posture or making itself visibly known to you.
Then I can't remember which... The shade was conjuration, right? There's the enchantment that we think is the narcolepsy.
The enchantment that you think is the narcolepsy, and then the shade you're pretty sure is conjuration magic of a fairly high order, 6th or 7th level spell.
Yeah, that's crazy as hell. All right, then we will cast Remove Curse.
And I will say, remember that DM curses are not necessarily in like the list of spells. This is one of those. So I'm being vague. I figured when
you didn't give Dave any spell names, I was like, these are probably homebrewed. Or
no, the middle one is actually just straight up an effect you can apply with Bestow Curse. It's functionally a constant level of exhaustion, but he got hit with an upcast version. It's making him fall asleep all the time. He literally cannot recover, so he is constantly at a, 4 levels of exhaustion.
Damn, that's crazy. Okay, we will attempt to cast Remove Curse at 3rd level on the enchantment.
Okay. Can you please link it for me? I looked at it earlier, but I know that'll save me having to pull it up. I don't think there's a save. I think it just works, right?
Is a save.
I know it says all. So the DC is for the effect, I think.
I assume it would be like if you
it's if you're trying to remove. Yes. So it says all. This specific effect calls out a different required spell. But that does, at your touch, you can feel break actually both the weak one and the middle one. I didn't realize it was all. I thought it was one, which I believe is lesser restoration is remove one condition from the target.
I believe so. I have it prepared, actually, even. You touch a creature and can end either one disease or one condition, but the condition can only be blinded, deafened, paralyzed, or poisoned.
Bro, removing poisoned is so important. Poisoned is one of those things that fucks even high-level players because
it hasn't come up yet, but I know if I unprepare it and it comes up, I'm going to be so mad.
Right.
All right. Well, in that case, you touch him, and you do... This is just flavor. You're not going to take any real damage, but as you reach out and touch him, there's a prickle as several shadowy needles push you away, but you are able to break the 2 lesser effects on him. And you feel immediately just your general cleric-y sense of the health of those around you, that he breathes a little bit easier, and rather than being kind of like in a soporific stupor, he is just regular sleeping. His breath evens out. There's not quite as much of a to his breathing. It just drifts into normal sleep. And there is just the briefest moment where the shadow looks at you again before aligning with his figure and joining him in that sleeping posture.
Boy,
It
do I
seems
hope we
like-
just didn't let the shade go to sleep.
The
And the shade's been exhausted this whole time, too. The only thing keeping it in check? That would be horrifying. And I'm afraid I gave you an idea.
Tomorrow morning, you're just getting crushed by a giant fucking shadow everywhere.
Honestly, we just gave him a sleep mattress. Like, we gave him a CPAP. That shade should be fucking yanking our pizzle in the morning for this, if that's true.
Thank you.
Where we go?
Oh. But yes, it seems like Borden should be much more his old self with a good night's rest. Good job.
Give Narlug a quick little quiet fist bump as to not wake the now sleeping peacefully Borden. Nice work.
Alright, so I will make a
Surgery is
note of that.
concluded.
Good job, Doctor. And Narlock takes off gloves that he didn't even have on.
Doctor.
Doctor.
Pack up and head back to our main sleeping room. We'll lock his door back on the way out.
Okay, and then one thing that I wanted to do before I forget about it, though, is I want to do an investigation check on my dagger.
Okay.
You know, after, because she's gone, right?
She is gone.
I didn't want to do it in front of her, so I just want to
And
see
this
if
actually is one where I think maybe Ayakobachi might be able to fill in some gaps. Are you secretly doing this, or are you just kind of like looking at it with the...
No, I just didn't want to do it in front of her, though, so
Yeah.
I have it out in the open.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah, I think investigation makes sense. Okay. You look at the edge of it where she had raked it. Yeah, you really are. Well, also those were, 24 from Ayakabachi, 20 from Ervir. I guess that you're doing this while Ayakabachi's probably scouting, unless you're specifically waiting for him. But you can all share this information once you regroup to actually sleep.
Yeah.
If
yeah,
you
I'm not keeping this hidden from anybody, so.
If you had to describe what the edge of the dagger looks like to you, it's not like it's dented or warped really, but it kind of almost looks like somebody ran a whetstone along it the wrong way. Like not sharpening the edge at an angle, like right along the actual blade. It looks like dulled, as though you were to try and drag it against something that it couldn't cut with a good bit of force. Almost like either her skin was impervious to it, or maybe even there's some other supernatural effect that made it so this mundane weapon was completely incapable of harming her, and therefore the dagger was harmed instead. And it is worth noting, it would probably take a good bit of strength, and she looked very casual doing it, in order to do this to a metal weapon. And I think you would recognize that, yeah, that tells you she's got some sort of serious damage resistance. And you talked about what you thought it might be that's causing that. I would think this is probably pretty common knowledge among adventurers, that at the very least werewolves are not harmed by mundane weapons particularly effectively. And Ervir had brought up that other types of lichens may have different both alignments and resistances. But to you, this looks like maybe even with a 24, this looks like maybe an immunity, not even just a resistance. Mike, did you go to say something there, or were you just...
I was exhaling.
Oh, okay.
Like Romir Ponder.
Fair. You're just... Cameras are a little buggy, I assume my connection's a little bit shit at the moment.
I've seen
so
a couple
essentially-
people kind of frame rate drop on their camera, so I assume it's just roll 20 tonight.
So
It just works.
is she ever will come out at nighttime, or is she's always
She's been out at night.
she's been out at night?
Mhm.
I don't know if it's like different lichens have like full moon rules, or if it's
Well, didn't we talk about the difference between someone who's afflicted and somebody who's a pureblood? I think we talked about that, right?
Don't know if we had an in-character conversation about that, but Ervir did mention that specifically Kelimvor's Lichen Curse had a trigger.
Mm-hmm. So for werewolves, it's the moon. For certain other things, it's different. For example, I think weresharks transform when there's blood. Not that I'm saying she's a wereshark. I'm just calling out a different
that would be
effect. They berserk when things around them bleed, and they are forced to transform.
Where Gopher transforms when it sees its shadow.
Yes. Were-groundhog.
Were-groundhog, excuse me, thank you.
I thought it was gonna be when they're on the golf course or something, like you're just compelled, like a bane.
Right. But also
so
to remind you, there are those that are born to the curse that have more control.
okay. Well, for Lakabachi's like blood spear, does that
Mhm.
drip blood, or is it like constantly have like a little bit of, or is that just, or it just
No,
feeds
it
off
seems
of
like
blood?
it drinks it anytime it comes
Okay.
into contact with it.
I was gonna say you could just like hold up the spear though, see if it gets her all crazy though, see if she'll turn into a shark.
I'll make myself bleed.
I'm pretty sure Ervir is
Think we
convinced
can
there's
check
something other than
shark
sharks.
Off the list.
I don't know. There's a pretty big lake, well, north west.
There
of
is
here.
a big lake.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a twist, though? Got all these hints about ravens and they're sharks.
The ravens are just the messengers.
Famous allies of ravens everywhere.
Mhm.
Sharks.
Yeah,
I've heard
sharks.
this. Yeah, sharks are confined to their little prisons, so they befriend the birds to bring them shit in tribute.
It is known.
And then the sharks
Is,
allow them to drink. It's a very symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, but this is more of like an actual like are like where like ravens like a thing in D&D, or is that not?
Maybe.
Yes, but
Yeah.
I don't think Ervir, or not Ervir, I don't think Ralmir would have ever heard of such a thing. They are
Okay.
exceedingly rare. But to answer your out of character question, yes, where ravens are. a thing.
Okay. I haven't looked into all the different where animals on D&D, so
There's a lot. Where tiger, where shark, where bear,
Where boar.
where boar. Yep.
Without his deity suffering from a lycanthropy curse, I don't think Ervir
Yeah.
would have ever had gone down that train of thought to even start
Yeah.
guessing and maybe thinking.
And even your deity is a good example of a weird one. Where panther.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's a
also,
thing.
Yagobachi did bring up Malar in a toast earlier when they were here before, and she did react to it. So, most
That is
people
true.
don't know about it, and the people who do have some type of connection to it. And
Mhm.
Yagobachi rolls deep with the lichens. It's how we roll.
He did seem to notice the Raven Queen too, if I
They give him the
recall. And to
pass
me at
on
the
the
time,
She
werewolf
did.
word.
the big thing was like, oh, she just recognized Faerun deities.
Mhm.
That's weird.
But you are correct. She did react to the Raven Queen
Mhm.
holy symbol.
Okay.
And yeah, also just because I, since we're talking above table about out of character stuff, we talked about there's different forms too.
right.
So, like a werewolf has like a full-on human form, a full-on wolf form,
Hybrid.
and then the purebloods have a hybrid form. Think Think more furry. Human with a wolf head and claws covered in hair, rather than like a proper wolf.
Yeah, like a bipedal
That
beast wolf man.
yes, that would still allow them to like
Oh,
use equipment and wear armor and
Proficient
yada
in
yada.
basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Werewolves all can dunk from birth. It is known.
I believe you become a werewolf after your bar mitzvah.
Yes, this is true.
That's boys becoming men and men becoming
Just a wear
wolves.
pup until then.
Yes,
Werepup.
pup. And if you're never bar mitzvahed, when you shift on a full moon, you just turn into a puppy.
Little
It's
scrappy
it's
dude.
adorable, but it's not very useful.
But
me at
to
him.
keep things on the above the table here, that was very plainly what Ervir was accusing Danica of earlier. And I guess I don't even want to use the word accuse there, but more like a, hey, I've noticed
Yeah.
some shit, and I think I've got a pretty good idea of what's going on.
Mhm.
And that's where she's like, you are absolutely the fuck not allowed to know that. And got very threatening about it.
I'm glad we
So
I
cleared it,
think-
because I was
believed,
definitely
at
sitting there
least-
just twirling my spear like, alright, I don't know what's happening, but I
Yeah.
like it. I like what's happening right now.
I think you can understand too why she was so defensive.
Yeah, but like,
Um,
ain't no way Strahd don't know.
maybe not.
It's possible he doesn't. I just don't see how after all this time that he'd be like,
Don't give a
"Why
shit.
Raven's here? That's fucking crazy."
Because he doesn't really go past the river, right?
Well, it's known that he shows up all over the place, and that he's
Yeah,
often
we saw him at Yester
watching.
Hill.
But a lot of the townspeople have talked about how like most of the time he just kind of hangs out in the castle and broods. It's been hundreds of years.
Yeah, he's
It's
really coming out for
unlikely
us.
that yes. And that's been described a couple times that he'll come anytime there's outsiders and he'll fuck with them and use them as little playthings. But other than that, he's rarely seen outside of the castle.
Yeah. So that was the whole conversation earlier. Was the implication that I know, and I want you to know that I know. And she didn't
Mhm.
like that. Till I guess she maybe trusted him
I know
enough
that you
to
know.
not force the issue for now. Hopefully.
Yes.
35,600 days since last Strahd incident, and we're at 2 now.
Yes.
We had 2
Ra-
Strahd incidents in 2
Raden
days.
Dying and walking over to the big board on the wall and setting it back to 0. But yeah, she seemed content to leave it at, we're gonna drop this line of thinking, but she did also leave the threat of, I will do anything to keep this secret, and you currently sleep under my roof. Make of that what you will.
There's no such a fucking going around telling everybody.
Now that you say it, Raumir, the blue water would be quite the establishment for a bunch of were sharks.
Yeah.
Well, also, we
Coincidence? I
should
think
not talk about it outside of the inn. Just in case
right.
eavesdroppers listen, so we can't keep that secret. But we'll make a pact here that we don't bring it up outside of this inn.
I think Irina would groggily clarify, probably not outside of this room.
Well, yeah, that's given.
There's an ear on the other side of the door.
No, my alarm spell would have went off.
It was
Just
just
an
an
ear.
ear. It suspects Ralmir.
Listen, if at any, I know it may not come up ever, but if you need to say and kind of speak about it in public without saying it, just talk about the sharks. Just
Sure.
talk about the sharks.
Ay.
I think our shark allies will take to the skies.
Exactly.
Oh no. Got Ayakabachi, he's a druid. Conjure Sharknado.
Right?
Now, if only we could create some sort of wand of disintegration that we could tie a rope to your head.
I'm not gonna lie. I could summon a wind elemental, and then I could wild
You
shape
could.
into a shark, and I could be inside of it.
That
and we
is
could
true.
get a wand of disintegration.
You
That
could have
also
sharks
is
with
cool.
freaking laser beams, which
Right.
is like what I assume you're going
You
for
could
there,
become the
Mike.
laser shark.
Sharks with
Then I
freaking
could
You're gonna need
laser
to
beams
learn a
on their
different
heads.
language, though.
And
You
then
are
I could
gonna need
enlarge
to
him
learn
and make him like a
Japanese.
huge ass, like a Jaws.
Right?
I mean, that'd probably be a good way to like fight Strahd with, though, because you'd have no idea what the hell is happening. So get him by confusion.
Who's got the stronger bite, Strahd or
Yeah,
Shark?
but he might also think
Probably
like
him.
Narlag and be like, "Is there really a problem I can't solve with enough fireballs?"
Yeah, that's true.
Hey man, I can just fucking, counter that.
Irving
Now would
will
I
also make a point before.
now would
Right.
Irina in front of the tornado?
No.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's true. She can have a saddle to ride on back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my paladin's conjure mount is a Sharknado.
Irving will also make a point before everyone goes to sleep for the night to remind Rolmir that at some point he will need to get those forged documents over to Walker, probably soon, because if that execution sneaks up on us, we need her ready.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just probably just.
But
Is that something to do tomorrow or?
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying.
He's kind of leaving it to your discretion. It's like he's not Walker's favorite pet. You are. So you're going to have to figure out how to play Walker. This is not his rodeo on that one.
Yeah, I was kind of seeing like how she is like during if she's has a whole bunch of people over during the daytime or if it's just dinner parties.
Sounded like dinner parties more than anything. Although Danica did say that people are staying over and then leaving kind of staggered in the morning. And I don't mean staggering. I mean like 2 people leave.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
10 minutes
like,
later, a few more, and then 6 minutes later, a few more. Yeah.
So I don't know if we
For
should.
brunch tea.
Don't know if it would be smart to spend a day of scouting out, seeing if.
Well, you do know that that's shortly after dawn. So I guess if you were trying to identify a mark that you know is in the cult, you could make a point of showing up right at dawn.
Yeah.
Either you or Ayakobachi, to follow someone home and tell you where they live or whatever. But you could even temporarily, not to put a plan in your brain, but how often can you disguise self? Once per long rest?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's once per long rest. Let me double check.
Because while I suppose that would put you unable to do it for the rest of the day, you could just be a guard, and then you kind of have the right to be wherever, whenever.
That was exactly what I was gonna say too. And you could even talk to the other guards and be like, "Man, this freaking Burgermaster, man. Jeez, he's the worst." You could spread some of that.
Make Valakut great again.
This guy stinks.
Right. Freaking and then also I was thinking too. I bet you could just do 2 birds, 1 stone. You could probably go to the dinner party with the note secretively, feel it out, see what's going down, maybe get some head count. Maybe you have a pet frog, whatever. But you go in there.
I like how the animal changes every time.
You could do that, and then at the end of it, maybe give it to her or something. I don't know. Or you could just walk and drop it off too. Like we could all do it together. Whatever you think would work, but you could definitely. I'm thinking. I don't know. How does everyone feel about the split up for the day of like Sabotage Day? Because like, I feel like you're gonna go to the church. You're gonna want to do the Walker thing. We could do the doll thing, and then what else do we need to like do for sure? Like,
isn't Blinksy by the Walkers?
Oh,
you guys could all
like
swing
right
over
over
there.
here, right? Like a little.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
Blinksy is
it
just
is
north of Walkers.
once per long rest, though. I forgot to, because it hasn't really come up since I hit level 5. I also have detect thoughts.
Oh.
Nice.
What?
That's a good one.
That is very good. But do
Like
link it,
once per
please.
day?
Yeah, no, it's like
Yeah,
it's like it's like without failing the save. I think it's like a very surface level. But if they fail the save, it's like you can like figure out what they're like
Yeah.
feeling and thinking and shit like that.
Do they know their minds being invaded?
That's the
They
one I
do
don't
if
know.
they succeed
Yeah.
the save, I believe, which is why I was asking for you to link it.
Yeah, he's probably doesn't. Did it auto generate on your character sheet? It might have.
No, because this was like kind of
It's a race thing.
yeah, it didn't put it on there when I hit level 5 though, so I think I got to manually
Alright.
do it.
Well, yeah,
There's
make sure to add it to your spell list. I'll pull it up
Yeah.
here. Let's see. For the duration, you can read the thoughts of certain creatures. When you cast the spell, and as an action on each turn until the spell ends, you can focus your mind on any one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. If the creature you choose has an intelligence of 3 or lower, or doesn't speak any language, the creature is unaffected. You initially learn the surface thoughts of the creature, what is most on its mind in that moment. As an action, you can either shift your attention to another creature's thoughts or attempt to probe deeper into the same creature's mind. If you probe deeper, the target must make a wisdom saving throw. If it fails, you gain insight into its reasoning, if any, its emotional state, and something that looms large in its mind, such as something that worries it, something it loves, or something it hates. If it succeeds its saving throw, the spell ends. Either way, the target knows that you are probing into its mind, and unless you shift your attention to another creature's thoughts, the creatures can use its action on its turn to make an intelligence check contested by your intelligence check. If it succeeds, the spell ends. Questions verbally directed at the target creature naturally shape the course of its thoughts, so this spell is particularly effective as part of an interrogation. You can also use the spell to detect the presence of thinking creatures that you cannot see. When you cast a spell, or as your action during the duration, you can search for thoughts within 30 feet of you. The spell can penetrate barriers, but 2 feet of rock, 2 inches of any metal other than lead, or a thin sheet of lead blocks it. You cannot detect any creature with an intelligence of 3 or lower, or one that doesn't speak any language. And once you detect something this way, you can read its thoughts for the rest of the duration as described above.
So yeah, like surface level would be like, man, I gotta pee right now. But then they're like, if you fail the save, it's like you can be like all types of shit, emotions, and it's pretty cool.
So surface level does not get a save and does not alert them. However, there's both a verbal and a somatic component to the spell.
And it's 60 seconds, so.
Right. So you either have to have someone cover for you while casting it, or make a big show of, this is a blessing amongst my people, shablagoo, hand-waving motion, and cast the spell. But then you'd have to succeed at lying about it.
Amir is a pretty good liar.
Yes.
That's true. I could also like take like Narlug with me though, and then I can act like I'm like sneezing behind him though, and then do like the hand motions.
Oh,
Narlik
sorry,
just
I
screaming in the
have
background.
a case of the eldritch sneezes.
I just spell verbal components all the time. I'm sorry.
Yes.
But yeah, I could also just.
That's a character concept.
Wouldn't that be funny if like like a wild mage sorcerer?
Uh-huh. They have Tourette.
I'm stealing that shit. That's good, dude.
I think that could be really fun. Like periodically just make like a wild magic roll.
That's your sneeze, and you just learn all the
Yes.
verbal components. You like look up a bunch of them. You just know them
Uh-huh.
all. That's awesome.
I think that'd be really funny.
I don't think I could, since I have a pop-up menu. I don't think I could drag this. No, I gotta reload Roll20 to do this.
You can just close your character sheet. If you popped your character sheet out, can't you just close the character sheet and then it'll be back in Roll20?
I've tried doing this before, and I had to like completely re-roll.
I might be able to do it for you. Let me see.
Yeah, sometimes when you pop out your character screen and then try to like put it back into the game and like add something to your shit, it's fucking
Then I
wonky
fell
as
out of roll
shit.
20 like
Oh
a
no,
fucking idiot.
it let me do it.
It did?
that's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Almost to cheating.
Everybody can cast magic on this team.
Right? Yeah, it's kind of funny when you have a particularly low magic group. It's just people have very different approaches to things. Even like detect thoughts is so good, especially on the rogue. Just saying.
The interrogation rogue, the
Attack thoughts, and the DM that
Yeah.
explicitly says you're not
Wait.
allowed to use psionics.
Well,
So,
5e
Arlo can be like
psionics
your
aren't
good
that
cop,
broken.
you know, just oblivious and think they have the upper hand.
Attack thoughts isn't mind control; it's a free action.
right.
No.
It's just, you
so
know,
I
some guy could just
Yeah,
be like,
Pathfinder psionics are horseshit. And I refuse to entertain it.
the best part about detect thoughts is because you could be like, if there's 5 guys, you can always have that one guy who's like, I wonder what Bill's doing today. Like he's just not
Right.
thinking about what's going on. He's just thinking about something else, you know.
He's thinking about them
To be
dream
fair,
pies.
Oh man, I
The
want that.
sun is too loud.
The sun
go
is too
home.
I shouldn't
loud.
have drank all those beers last night.
They don't even know I moved 2 pints last night.
Man.
Thinking about that, yeah, that mysterious rash he's got.
I gotta go see the what do they call them? Not the doctors, but they call them like I mean obviously clerics, but there's like not like it's in like Game of Thrones. It's like the one guy who's got the big chain around his neck.
Maester.
The Maester.
Yeah.
Meister. I gotta go see the Meister. This rash is getting a little out of hand. It'd be funny.
Ugh, horrifying.
well,
But yeah,
so would I be able to combine like this with detect thoughts to like make them?
it's not concentration. What do you mean combine it?
Or like,
Yeah, I
well,
can-
like you just change their like change like their thought though to like distract them with like a sound of a closing door or
I mean, you might
messing
get
with the lights.
like what they're thinking or what they're afraid of, for example, if you're trying to scare them like that. But even like, it's the old, if somebody says don't think about elephants, what are you thinking about?
Elephants.
Exactly.
That
So
okay.
even just like cleverly talking about a subject is going to get them to think about it, whether or not they kind of want to. And also, this setting is fairly low magic, right? Like, you haven't run across a lot of people that are spellcasters, so I don't think too many people are going to be worried about detect thoughts, but they are going to notice you throwing gang signs and speaking in tongues, and then your eyes glow when a spell casts.
Dude, you
So
just gotta
that's
walk with like a cool limp and be like, I'm from the 7th
right.
layer band. Right.
Straight out of Avernus.
If you do it to
Come up with a
everybody,
whole,
it's just
come
a
up with a
thing.
whole bar.
You run into another person doing it and be like, oh damn, you fucking tamp up and shit.
He's east side of Dis, not west side of Dis.
Oh, then it's roll initiative, bam.
Did you just scuff my Sir Nicolats?
God damn it.
We're the worst.
But yes, that is a very, 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 very powerful tool to have in your arsenal. But I'm just trying to make sure like, you're going to need to disguise that you're casting it in some way, or just be like around a corner while your party's talking to someone, and then walk around the corner. You've got a full minute.
So, like, is it possible to like have like act like I have like my hands like behind my back though, and then like do or
So that
You are
is
describing subtle spell.
yeah, subtle spell is
Oh.
like specifically a meta magic thing. However, if you were to hit like a very high deception roll, I would say maybe.
Yeah,
But I'm
'cause
talking like a 25 or something, because you have to talk.
your way
You have to
into
say
speech.
something.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
arm waves with thaumaturgy. It's just saying something. So like, imagine like weaving it into a sentence.
Or no, I'm just talking about like just doing disguise
You don't need to see
or not.
creature.
I'm reading that, or like just detect thoughts though, because
Oh,
that's
Yeah, so it's VSM,
worse.
right? So verbal somatic
Yeah.
material, but
three of them.
because it's racial, I don't think you need the material component. Not that a copper piece is difficult.
right.
Also, it just clicked what that is. I like that.
It's like flipping a coin.
Anybody else get it?
No.
Any of your thoughts?
There you go. Yep. That's the old.
That's smart.
Yeah, Zach made the point that you don't need to look at the creature when you cast it. You can just do it out of sight, and if you know
Yep.
where your
Yeah.
as long as your target's nearby, you pop back up and you just bypass the whole need to hide anything,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
you're also really good at.
Yeah, that's true. I could just sneak.
Yeah. That's more what I would say. Like you'd look at you'd probably just want to be around the corner or in stealth and then do it. Again, you don't want to like pop out of a barrel into a conversation like, "Oh, I'm not hiding anymore, but my detect thoughts is running." But also, it's a 30-foot range, which means that Ervir could be talking to somebody around the corner while you stand there out of sight and out of hearing range,
yeah.
cast the spell, and
Right.
catch everything that they're thinking.
You're very
Why am I
nice.
telling you this? I'm making my own life harder here.
Right.
You should. Yeah, you
I'm giving
really
you all
are.
of these
But it's
ideas.
good teamwork. I like that.
Because if he
I
peers
am
deeper, it
on the
still gives the
players
game
team.
away.
Yeah. No,
Like
it
there's
it
still
does.
you still have to
Yes.
be smart with it. You can't just willy nilly get freebie thoughts because
Mhm.
someone's like, something is in my head. I wonder if it's the red man.
Wait a minute, a devil just came to town yesterday.
Right.
But
That's
yeah.
what I thought. That's all I thought. What I was thinking of when I was playing when I rigged the card game with the walkers. I was like, literally just a devil man shows up and asks if you want to play cards.
He's gonna
Well,
ask me if
perhaps
I'm
the
the best
fact,
fiddler around.
right? Perhaps the fact that they were willing to play cards with the devil should have been a clue. In
Yeah, that's true.
retrospect. Side note, just before I forget to mention it, I did both last session as you were coming into Valaki, and then again today mentioned the Vistani encampment south of town. It is on the map, just so you guys know.
And then, are we
Down here in the southwest.
Down here. Okay.
Okay. Should probably investigate that at some point. Like,
Yeah, I'm not necessarily telling you to go there. I'm just saying so that you recognize that is
Yeah.
now a location you are both in character and out of character aware of.
that
You
is
saw
a
it
place we
coming
could
down the hill.
maybe barter these rubies for anything we need. They may have some shit down there that we haven't seen for sale so far.
Hell yeah.
That is very true. They're the ones that go in and out of the fog, after all.
Get that good shit.
Definitely something to investigate.
20 gold burn a
for-
hole in Yakobachi's pocket.
I don't know how long it'll all take, but I would definitely plan on prepping all of us going to our posts and investigating.
Oh, for sure. And also, again, yeah, I don't know how long that'll take. I try to move things that can be moved along as yada yada yadaing along. Like for Akobachi listening in, I don't want to RP 3 guards talking
Yeah,
to
right,
each
right,
other
right.
for
Yeah.
30 minutes. It's better to just tell you what you hear. So for some of the scouting stuff, I'll be able to just kind of bullet point, and then you guys can do with it what you will. But in terms of the other aspect of how long does it take, if you were to jaunt out there, that's like a 10-minute stroll from town, just so you know. It's not particularly far. I mean, you can see the scale here. It's 2,000 feet is the size of that. You know, you're less than a mile from anywhere in town to that camp, which is, you know, a fairly
Yeah.
brisk walk, 10 minutes, back in half an hour, and you do have an entire day, so...
It'll be over by the church, so
And then,
it'd be nice if we had some way to communicate to each other over any amount of distance,
New sending stone, who dis?
right?
oh,
Maybe they got some of those.
can Nakabachi get like messenger ravens?
You could get Animal Messenger.
I can get Animal Messenger. I can prepare for tomorrow.
Yeah, but like, do we want him to burn a spell slot on what could have just been the
It's a
greeting
ritual.
message on a collect call? Oh, is it a ritual?
Yeah, oh wait, no. Let me double check. It might not be.
I think it's a ritual, but I'm not 100% sure.
Me neither.
One of these days, Narlock will learn sending.
Yeah, I mean, probably I could take it on whenever we level up.
So many animal spells.
I think I can learn it too.
I got a skill or two that I've been thinking about just getting rid of anyways. It still stays in my spell book anyways.
Yeah.
You just add another one when you
Yeah.
add 2 every level.
Can
Yeah, your
wizard,
spell list
It
is
is
probably getting kind
It
of
is
big
a
now.
ritual. It's level 2, and it lasts for
Sending
24
is
hours.
not
So
a
once I
ritual.
summon it, we could just boop, 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 back and forth. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, it
respond
does have
to
a travel time, but it's
Now the question
fast.
is, an African swallow or a regular, you know, like
Yeah,
one's faster?
African swallow or European swallow.
Which one can carry a coconut?
I think here you'd probably be getting mostly Eastern European swallow.
Sending is a 3rd level spell. You could use it to talk shit to Strahd from here, though.
That
You
is
could send
true.
to Strahd.
Dude, that is worth it in its own right there.
Just like shit post at him on Twitter from over here.
Twitter, they're just tweeting at him.
Send some sort of shit post to Strahd. You're like staring at the castle in the distance. Little tiny glowing red dot getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Just hit him with
Fireball.
hey, blew you up.
Point out the age difference between him and what's her name? Fucking blanking on it.
Tatiana.
Irina.
Irina. Start calling him a certified pedophile and shit.
See, the problem is that your sendings are addressed to Lord Strahd. Fireball is addressed to whom it may concern.
Hey man, Kendrick made that shit just to send it to Drake, and he happened to make money off
That
of
is
it.
true.
Strahd tries to sue us. He's like, this is a defamation of my character.
On that same vein, I wondered what could we do with the concept of a party bus? Like, obviously, there's no bus, but you take a wagon or a caravan, and you get some people drinking and like some tavern bards and shit in there. Like,
I personally
get
always
our-
enjoyed a good team wagon.
like you could hitch
I
a
mean-
couple of them together.
I mean, if we could do like a party bus, though, we could get Narlock laid.
Hell
Still-
yeah.
still
That
look
is
at that
true.
any other night.
I could keep that 10 gold the orcs gave me.
Just drifting around Barovia, listening to the Venga Boys, dude.
The
Bravia boys,
Let me see if I can find this in any reasonable amount of time. But speaking of a cool party wagon, not party, but like a party's wagon.
Arcadia has a
Strahd
party
Miss-
wagon. There's just a tiger in it.
He does have a party wagon, yes. It's currently occupied.
The tiger can
Uh,
come.
He's about to get his tomorrow. Or hers.
Dang it.
You know, if Yakubachi's got to borrow Ramir's thieves' tools, you know what I'm saying? Let our boy out. A little animal friendship. You know? Never hurt anybody. Unless I fail to save, then he might hurt people.
I maybe wouldn't let a giant beast out in the middle of town.
Yeah, you're right. You should probably keep me locked up.
Wait, it worked well for elephants.
True. I don't appear to have it hit anywhere.
How did it work
super
out for
handy.
Harambe?
Mm.
Not great.
I mean, I'm not gonna like try to shoe in the whole racism thing, but he was kind of a monkey.
What the hell? He wasn't even a monkey. You racist.
An ape.
Exactly, point proven.
Oh my god.
Was an ape.
What do you mean, you people?
That is kind of fucked up. I can't find the damn thing. But the B team in Victorian Vampires is they are kind of a roaming carnival sideshow is their cover. And so they do have like a whole fleshed out wagon that is their home base map. And I thought that was really cool. Gave them like a chance to have something that they feel like they can call their own.
Neat.
Yeah.
Having a base is good.
I like base building as a little character thing, especially if you're, actually coming back and modifying it periodically.
I gotta look it up, but there's a pretty good spell that is fucking amazing.
Oh, there's a couple of them, but are you talking about Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion?
That one's insane. That one's like the high level one, but Liamon's Tiny Hut is still pretty
Liamon's
good.
Tiny Hut.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
a ritual too. It's
Classic.
evocation too.
I love Tiny Hut.
That's a
Evocation.
classic ass spell.
It is
I
evocation.
didn't even know
That
it
shit's
was.
been around forever.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
just a small crystal bead. 8 hours of just a cool little place for us to chill.
Yep. How you tell your DM that you no longer wish to partake in nightly random encounter rolls.
Right? Yakubachi be up all night looking through those little slots, being like, I hope they come. I hope they do. I hope they show up.
Will we be long resting effectively tonight? So we
Yes,
have
you
a
will.
refreshed character sheet for next session.
Yes,
Yeah,
feel free to take a
I'm
long
gonna switch around a
rest.
few spells. I'm definitely gonna be using. I was thinking you just said that you had enlarge reduce, Dave. If I had it too, we could make something really big.
Just a giant
Technically, I
Walmer.
suppose that works, right? Because you're
As long as
each
it's two different
individually
people.
concentrating on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I drop
Or make
purify
something really
food and drink, or
small.
hold on to it?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that.
I'm asking the
But-
party.
That's a pretty good one at times, but it's one of those ones that's like.
Yeah,
so
it's like,
specific.
am I going to use it tomorrow? But it's also like, what else am I going to put in there? I could take command or protection from evil and good.
Mm-hmm.
Create or destroy water.
I
I
was
also have detect poison and disease, which could be
Interesting.
I would say I have the protection one.
moved out.
That's a useful one.
See, I don't think I had the poison one. I might have it, but I just haven't prepared. I was thinking, I'm
Kind
definitely
of
gonna
bank
take
it on medicine checks.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take dispel magic. I'll speak with plants was dope, but I'm not gonna keep it prepared. And then, yeah, I might switch them up a little bit. It seems like tomorrow's gonna be a lot of like talking to people. Getting some intrigue.
Could drop lesser restoration for hold person.
Yeah, hold
Depending on how
person.
quick the talking
Or
goes,
zone of
you
truth.
might be able to, start acting on some of these plans. But yes, it'll probably be mostly set up if I had to guess.
That's my assumption.
Oh boy. Sorry, digging deeper into some of my folders to try and find this fucking thing, because now it's bothering me. Because I'm worried I lost the map. I guess I can always steal it from Roll20 back. But I did come across a wereshark that was never bar mitzvahed.
There's our plans. There's a shit that'll happen to us during the day that throws a wrench in it all.
That's another B team bit. The word plan is forbidden. They only use the word scheme because every time they make a plan, it goes wrong.
Point.
Damn it! I had the wereshark, and now I went to drop it in Discord. I lost it in my giant folder of inspo. Where are you, shark? Oh, there's my safe spider. Because we have an arachnophobe in the other group. And I did use that.
Actual arachnophobia?
Well, Brandon is very not fond of spiders. Anyway, here's your unbar mitzvahed wereshark when they transform.
The cat feet.
Don't touch me.
I love it.
My long rest button doesn't reset my class features.
You have to
No,
set
it doesn't.
You have to. There's a cog right there. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to set it up.
Yourself.
I mean, I could just click it back up. It's just weird that it doesn't do that automatically.
No, I had to fuck
Do
with
I
that.
keep the inspiration from last session too? Because that wasn't a combat
Technically,
thing, so I
no,
hold
but
on to it. Oh, okay.
it's
I thought
supposed
it was
to
like a
end.
hero point thing.
No, it's supposed to end at every session, but go ahead and keep it for now since I hadn't clarified. But yeah, that's the way that it normally goes. You earn it and then it goes away.
Yeah. That's why I remembered, because Von Richten gave it out in combat, so I thought it going away after that day was like a combat bonus, not like a handed out bonus. I don't think I made any of the rolls that day. Well, I guess I did, but we didn't need to.
Yeah, it's just kind of a free thing to just use.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's supposed to be designed to not be hoarded.
Right.
If that makes sense, because you either have it or don't have it.
I really like willpower in VTM, like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a fucking great system.
There's a lot of cool stuff that VTM does, but it's also, I think, fiddlier in a lot of ways.
It is, and by kind of design.
Yeah,
but like there's a lot less hard rules.
Mm-hmm. Much more like collaborative storytelling driven than a lot of D&D stuff.
I mean, the dot system, like once you know how the dot system and how all the dice and everything work, it does make a shit ton more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have been listening to that podcast at all, like every so often, it's like you're not usually gonna botch a roll, so you'll usually get you successfully did the thing, or like you really knocked that shit out of the park. But every so often, something you're supposed to be good at will go wrong, and that is an opportunity for something interesting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like D&D where like you just roll one after one after one after one, and it's like, well, you only had a +8 and you rolled lower than a 5.
I really like the system for both Kids on Bikes and Kids on Brooms, which was reworked into the Never Stop Blowing Up system for Dimension 20.
Never Stop Blowing Up.
It's so fun. You'd get all the ridiculous 80s action movie references. It's literally it's Jumanji, but they're sucked into an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's just Last Action Hero.
Sure. But they're playing all like kids that work in a blockbuster, so they're nerdy, awkward teens and a 85-year-old Indian woman. And anyway, when you fail a roll, you take a token, and those tokens can be spent for a flat +1 on anything.
I like that too.
And then they gain like powers as they level up, and they use the tokens for other cool shit.
Yep.
It's pretty dope.
Mm-hmm. It's a very cool system. But those are, like I said, it's based on Kids on Bikes, which is basically a system for Stranger Things or E.T. or supposed to be a bunch of 80s kids in a small town somewhere solving a mystery. Yeah. And the interesting gimmick is there is every player has a character, and then there is the special, which is E.T. or 11 or whatever, that is controlled by the party, which I think is kind of interesting. So you have like everybody's playing like a normal human, but then you have like the one supernatural entity that is kind of able to really push shit, but it's a collective decision how they behave. So it's very loosey-goosey on like who really has direct control, but that inspires collaborative storytelling, I think, where you kind of have to like decide how you want this character to act.
You definitely need the right group that could be like, we all kind of have an idea of the direction we think this is going.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a cool system, and it's very rules light. I think the entirety of the rule book is 10 pages.
Which definitely takes a group of people who like understand trying to tell like a story and role. You know, sometimes you know the rules almost add to like this type of gameplay where it's almost like a game, like a video game or a board game. Having rules that are very simple help open up and make it more broad, make it easy for people to just do
absolutely.
Thing, you know,
like we played a session with our D&D group once of Monster of the Week, which is another super rules light system, and basically it's Scooby-Doo. You know, you're a group of ragamuffin people trying to solve a mystery. But like there's no hit points. There's no any of that. It's just like, what do you want to do on your turn? And there's like a couple different actions you can take. But when you say, I want to fight it, it's like, okay, you roll, but the roll is not so much like a true DC. It's like, I want to fight. Here's my base value. But, okay, so we're like in the living room trying to deal with this ghost, right? Shit, my fight roll was kind of bad. But okay, I want to grab the iron fire poker. Ghosts are weak to iron, right? So I'm going to pick that up to try and salvage this. And the DM goes, okay, well, you grab the iron fire poker, and in the time that you do that, the ghost does this to get away from it. And then it's back to the player to be like, all right, as a response to that, I do that. So it's very much like back and forth. There's not like a lot of hard,
Yeah,
you
like just
miss
flat
and
out
you move
RP
on.
fighting.
Yes, exactly. But I think it's kind of interesting.
Does the ghost make an opposed roll?
Yes. So there's like a when you're hit there is like a I can't remember what it is, but it's like endure. You roll to see like if that knocks you for a loop or if you just shrug off that hit. But the DC
Called
is set
soak.
by how good. Yeah, it's basically. But it's kind of like the difficulty is determined by how good the fight plus whatever other modifiers it can comes up with, and
I
like
think I get the vague idea.
it encourages you to think creatively because it's like within reason you're kind of just able to be like, yeah, you know, my character's like a paranoid conspiracy nut, which is one of the class options, the kook, I believe they're called. And be like, of course I have a bag of salt in my pocket, like, you know, I know we're dealing with a ghost, so I brought a bag of salt so I can throw down a salt circle to keep it from getting to me. Like that kind of just, it's not an inventory. It's just like a thing that you can think of to make it interesting.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But you do really have to have like a group of people who are willing to like get in character and like kind of go for it. But I think it could be kind of fun if you can get people really talking and engaged. But yeah, anyway, that's my ramble about
Pretty
rules
goofy
light
little
systems
one-shot.
and why I think they're fun. Yeah. And all of those have literally systems in place to design the game for the DM as you're going. Like, they all have like a, how did you meet? Mike, tell me how you met Frank. Like, you just come up with a character connection. And then Frank tells me how he met Dave. And Dave tells me how, you know, he met Zachy, and Zachy tells me how he met you to close the loop. And like, you know, from that you pick like a shared thing, and like that's the setting for the session. And then like, you know, okay, what kind of spooky thing could be going wrong at the high school you all know each other from, and then like you collectively decide like what the general vibe of the mystery is going to be. It's like literally there's a checklist of like 10 questions that builds the monster of the week as you go. I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's neat. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. Are we all good for next week? I think I am, but
I
there's
should
like
be
a
good.
I should be.
40% chance I might not be. So I will, of course, let you guys know. I have to start
should-
this and end it right
I
away.
should be
as
good.
always.
Yeah, I
Okay.
should be too.
Same.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, we will plan on it, and over the weekend I will have a better idea. Not the 31st.
I also get
the
my permit
7th.
today for my motorcycle.
Nice.
Congratulations.
I'm
I
gonna
assume you don't
move.
have to have somebody riding bitch with you, like you do
We
in a
weren't
car.
technically supposed to have like